Feeling pressure to win football games comes with the territory when you're a Division I football coach. At the University of Nebraska, that pressure is higher. The latest person trying to outgrow the shadow of Tom Osborne, Bo Pelini. Last year, Nebraska showed signs of improvement. They had their moments when they weren't very good, but they pulled it together, and down the stretch, they showed a lot of potential. They have a lot of talent coming back and showed enough potential to have the media award them as the preseason favorite in the Big 12 North. Offensively, there are some questions, some things that could hold them back from reaching that plateau, but overall Nebraska much improved this year and a threat for the Big 12 Conference title. Let's take a look at the keys to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. When we start with the keys for Nebraska, we look right at Roy Halu Jr. The running back, him and Quentin Castile are going to be absolutely monstrous early on for Nebraska. They have a good running game, always have a strong offensive line, and these two backs can serve a great function. They can take pressure off a brand new quarterback. Halu and Castile both showed the potential last year to be game-breaking backs and have the potential to possibly be much like a 1,000-yard duo like you saw last year at Oklahoma with DeMarco Murray and Chris Brown. The running backs, though, they're going to have support, and right now one of the question marks for Nebraska, the receiving corps. They lost some talent last year, although they have back tight end Mike McNeil. McNeil, not your stereotypical tight end, a very legitimate downfield threat. They're going to need people to step up. Mikulik Holt, Niles Paul, these could be two people that could fill that role. The reason that all this offensive battery has to step up is because Nebraska is going to have a new quarterback. Right now, Zach Lee is going to get the first shot at the job, but here's a name to mark down. Cody Green, a Texas product, going to be a true freshman in Nebraska, was up there during spring drills, a lot of upside and a lot of talent. If Lee is not able to fulfill what Pelini and the Nebraska staff want out of him, Green will get a look. He had a freak injury in spring practice, didn't get as much time as they would have liked, but at Big 12 Media Days, when they spoke about him, you could tell they have a lot of hope for Green. But right here, this is going to be, if Nebraska is going to be good, they're going to have a quarterback. Lee, maybe the answer. I think Green long-term is their answer, but one of them's going to have to get it done quickly if they're going to compete for a Big 12 North title like people are expecting them to. Defensively, here you go. Starts right here. That's a scary name. Here's how you pronounce it. Ndamukong Suh. If you don't know it now, you better learn it because this is one of the best defensive linemen in the country. He turned down a lot of money to come back to Nebraska. The NFL was calling. He came back to get more development and to play for Pelini on a defense that could be really, really good. Defensive line, going to be strong with him centered in the middle. Stopping the run should not be a problem. Mature secondary is going to be improved. They're going to be a little bit better, and I think this is going to be the strong point for Nebraska. Their defense is going to stop people and let this young offense have some time to develop and get better. Number one reason why they're a favorite in the Big 12 is the defensive line, led by Suh. Newcomers to watch for. Here's some help for that offense. Brandon Kinney, junior college wide receiver, transfers into Nebraska, 6'3". Big target, not a stereotypical wide receiver for a Nebraska football team. This could be a kid that could give Lee or Green eventually a legitimate downfield threat and someone who can be a real true possession receiver. But like I said, the key to it all down the line, I think, is going to be Cody Green. I expect him to step up, and if he doesn't start at quarterback, I think he'll be involved with the offense in some way. Too talented of a kid to keep off the field. The schedule for Nebraska. There is a tough challenge right off the bat. Florida Atlantic and Arkansas State, not so much. There's the big one. Number 3, at Virginia Tech, a consensus top 10 team to start the year. That's going to be a big one. If Nebraska goes into Blacksburg and wins that game, look out. They are going to have a ton of momentum down the line, and they could be a real threat, not just to win the Big 12 North, but they could actually compete with the teams in the South to win the whole conference. Their conference schedule comes down to one game. I mentioned it during the Kansas preview. At Kansas against the Kansas Jayhawks, I think that'll be your Big 12 North Division title game. Right now, it's kind of an opposite spectrum. Kansas, an extremely strong offense. Nebraska, not so much. Defensively, Nebraska is superior to Kansas. The bounce out, pretty even. We're going to find out what happens later on this week. I'll get into more of my preview and where I think Nebraska and KU is going to end up at. The last few years of Missouri head coach Gary Pinkel's tenure have been pretty pleasant. Unbelievable talent. Chase Daniel, Jeremy Macklin, Chase Kaufman, along with a host of others. Unfortunately, all three of those gone. Missouri, I don't want to say almost that they're rebuilding, but very close to it. They're going to have some people step up this season. They're going to have some new players, but they have a ton of potential and some serious talent. We'll start with the keys for Missouri, and right there, Sean Witherspoon, senior linebacker. I'm going to call him the glue of the defensive unit. He must step up because he's going to have a young defensive line in front of him. He's more of a hybrid back. He goes to both positions, but he's going to be looked upon as the leadership of this team and letting a defense develop that can hold people, because the offense is going to have some youth that's going to need some time to get things going. Speaking of offensive keys, one thing that they do not need help with, the running back slot. Derek Washington, a 1,000-yard back from last year, he has a huge role. Like a lot of teams in the Big 12, a reoccurring theme you're starting to see is running backs can take pressure off of young quarterbacks and let them have some time to develop. Missouri, though, the young quarterback they have, a lot of talent, a highly coveted recruit. Blaine Gabbert, bound for Nebraska at one point in time, broke the Cornhuskers' hearts, pulled out, went to Missouri. He sat there, he studied under Chase Daniel, now he's going to get the shot to start in the fall. A lot of talent. Big kid, strong arm. If things go well, they're going to miss a beat, obviously, when you lose a kid like Chase Daniel, but Gabbert has the potential and the talent to keep Missouri well up on the scales this year. His development could mean the difference between a 6-6 team or maybe an 8-4 team that puts itself up towards the top of the North Division. Defensively for Missouri, Jaron Baston is the only returner on the D-line, and he's going to be leaned on heavily. He's going to have to perform tough to let some other kids kind of fall around him and get better. The secondary has to improve, but they're going to be young and it's going to be tough. The one thing to help them, my newcomer, Notre Dame transfer Munir Prince. A very talented person. I know Notre Dame loved him. A great deal of speed up top. Things didn't work out there. Transfers to Missouri. He should be an immediate starter in the secondary and make them a real threat to help shut down some of the passing games that they had trouble with last year. The schedule for Missouri, they start the year against Illinois. The traditional game this year will be extremely tough. Illinois has Juice Williams back. That game set a tone early on, but it is a rivalry game. Missouri should be ready for that. Bowling Green, Furman, at Nevada, a tough game for them out there. Makes them a pretty tough non-conference schedule. 2 other 4 games are definitely in question for them. The Big 12 schedule, you get the best right out of the bat. Nebraska's the favorite. You get a chance to take care of that at home in Columbia. At Oklahoma State, a tough game. Texas. Those 2 games right there, they're going to have a tough time with those. At Oklahoma State and Texas at home, I just don't know right now if you can expect Missouri to win that game. And that's why you're going to see later in the week when I show you my predictions with Missouri, I got them a little bit lower than some people thought. They end the year with Iowa State and their traditional border war, for lack of a better term, with Kansas. Missouri, they're going to be better, but I think it's all going to depend on Blaine Gabbert and what they do. Later this week, I'll show you once again the standings of where I think Missouri is going to finish up. Right now, though, that's going to conclude our look at the Nebraska Cornhuskers and the Missouri Tigers and finish out our preview of the Big 12 North Conference. Stay tuned. We're going to get into the South, which should be exciting considering they have 3 top 10 teams and a whole bunch of talent. For the Red Raider Report, I'm Zach Long.